Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Nir Zohar, President and COO of Nasdaq-listed Wix, to discuss e-commerce trends and the company's latest earnings report released just this morning. Nir, it's great to see you. Welcome back to Trade Talks. And let's briefly go through earnings in which the company had another good quarter.
Yes, and first of all, thank you for having me, Jill. Yes, we had a great Q3. I think it was tremendous to see how growth continues through Q2 and Q3, hitting record numbers for us on collections, on revenues, on registered users. I think everything has been elevated ever since Q2 started and going into Q3. We've done 36% growth year-over-year growth of collection, 29% year-over-year growth in revenues. So definitely, we're going at a very fast pace here.
What are the trends that you're seeing with website design or newer technologies like artificial intelligence used more prominently on websites? What are you seeing there?
Well, I think there are two ends to that spectrum. So definitely, yes, we've seen a lot of adoption of AI, and we've been one of the first companies, or the first company, to actually introduce artificial intelligence into web design. We have the Wix ADI, Artificial Design Intelligence, which is our product that we launched back in 2016. That does exactly that. We ask you a few questions about who you are, what you need, whether you already have some existing assets on the internet, and brings it all together and tries to deliver for you the best website that will match your needs. There's a lot of evolution there. It makes a lot of sense, but it caters to a very certain demographic. It caters to the demographic of those people who want to do the least heavy lifting. Usually it's people who are less savvy in technology and less of power users. I think in the middle you have a lot of people, mostly the younger generation, who feel very comfortable with a computer, and these guys will use a lot of our, many times we'll use our core Wix editor that has been with us ever since we started the company. But lately, we also started gearing up towards trying to cater to the needs of the professionals. And these people want to have something completely not automated. They want to be able to control every pixel. And for those people, we announced early this year and then softly launched through the summer our new Editor X, which is a complete suite for professionals.
Now, Wix sits at the intersection of e-commerce, and that certainly is one area that's benefited from the stay-at-home environment. Many of the trends were in place prior to COVID-19, but the pandemic has certainly accelerated them forward. Tell us more about if you think consumer spending habits have shifted permanently as a result.
Well, I think some of them shifted not permanently. For example, once the pandemic started, we saw a huge shift suddenly towards food and beverage online, which existed before, but suddenly went up to the top of the list. Kind of makes sense because those people were the ones who couldn't sell offline anymore at all. And those, I would say, moderated a little bit over time, especially as most of the Western economies or the Northern Hemisphere economies through the summer started to reopen. But that being said, I do think this is something we're definitely seeing, is that even though those economies reopen, the demand levels and the intent of users coming in and building websites on our platform and building businesses essentially on our platform has not really diminished. And to me, what it says is that there is a change in the kind of the state of mind of people. There's a long time trend of people moving to the internet and moving their businesses online. COVID made it suddenly that this is something that they consider an imperative. It's critical. And that change in mindset is not going to go away even when the pandemic hopefully goes away very soon with a vaccine. We've seen that. We really sense that. We obviously, if you're a small business that already moved online through the pandemic and built revenues, you're not going to cancel them now that the economy reopens because it's making revenues. But even for the newcomers, the people who came through Q3 when they had less pressure for the online because the economy was open, still came at a much higher intent, much more tendency to buy business packages because they really had the need to try and build a business on the internet.
What are your expectations for holiday 2020? I would imagine shoppers shouldn't wait until last minute, such as myself, because there's an expectation a lot of shipping is going to be taking place with e-commerce being in the forefront for 2020.
First of all, I totally agree. I would say that that's probably different from one country to the other. In the US, where I think there's a much more mature shipping environment and shipping industry, it's going to be probably less of a pain compared to, I don't know, to Israel, where I come from, which is very undeveloped, and to some parts in Europe. But I think that it's going to be an interesting or a different holiday season to some extent. You know, at Wix, we usually experience some seasonality in Q3, because in August, people go on vacations. Now, this year, people didn't really go on vacations, but we still sense a lot of that seasonality. What does it mean? I'm not sure. Maybe people just, you know, they still, you know, they still have the habit of just working less through the summer in August. But how will that look now in doing, you know, starting Thanksgiving and going into December? My assumption is, as far as what we've seen, we're going to see very high and very elevated online sales across the board, and already started seeing some of it. And I'm sure that it's going to extend further as we go towards December and the holiday season. It'll be interesting to see, though, what people are doing, because I do think that, especially in winter, it's going to be much harder to be the combination of winter and COVID to be able to do regular, you know, go on regular vacations and take time off. So I think it's going to be, in terms of the consumer behavior, it's probably going to be a much busier season than what we are usually used to.
Yeah, those are all good points, Nir. It's always great to see you. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks.
It was a great pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
You got it. And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.